Alright, hey Yagaho guys, this is week 10 of the GBA, and we are playing Swagilyph in the Pittsburgh Steelix, and you can see, of course, this is verse recorded. Reason for that being I was out of town for this game, the only day we could play it, and so did not have access to my camera, so we had to verse record instead. Thankfully, the only internet I had was my MiFi card, which was probably running on 2G, so thankfully this did not disconnect, and we were able to complete the game, so yay. Anyway, so he just recently picked up, I think this was the first week he could use it, Tangrowth to complement the Slowking and make for a nice regenerator duo there. Thankfully we have Zapdos, who has Heat Wave and Thunderbolt to deal with that, but this week actually going to be running Dual Stab in lieu of Heat Wave. We have Air Cutter, got raised to 60 base power, so it's almost as strong as Heat Wave. And it's got a little bit more accuracy and has the crit chance, but the main reason I went with Air Cutter over Heat Wave was for that Mega Heracross. It's definitely been one of his big monsters. That and Landorus Incarnate have probably been his two biggest muscles on his team. So I wanted to make sure we had as many things that Mega Hera can't just get dropped in on and pick up either a kill on that or a 2-hit KO on something else or mad damage. I also wanted to make sure that we didn't get swept out by Baton Pass, so I knew I wanted to Roar somewhere. I really wanted to put it on Suicune, but I felt like I wanted to run Rest Talk, and I think I actually went with Ice Beam on there because I wanted Coon to be able to come in to the Landorus and definitely be able to take care of that. And I also did not want Toxicroak to come in because I also wanted to run Toxic because I felt like Coon would be the best lure in for things like Tangrowth and Slowking. So I wanted to have Toxic on there so I could get him on the switch in. So Roar ended up going on Zapdos, which I didn't really like because I know that Scolipede would most likely run Rock Slide. So that doesn't make it exactly the safest thing to bring Zapdos into. But as it was, I'll put Roar somewhere. At least Zapdos can roost off damage, etc. So yeah, Toxic and Ice Beam because I didn't want Toxicroak to completely come in free. Went ahead and brought both fighting types this week. He's got Porygon 2 and Umbreon, so I definitely want some sources of close combat. As you can see there, he didn't end up bringing either one of them, but the threat was made and the threat was carried through, so there you go. Closer this week, not running Scarf, not running Shell Smash, because aforementioned Toxicroak Vacuum Wave would be the most terrible thing a Shell Smash Cloister could ever see. Instead, we're going to be running a Choice Band. Choice Band at Ice Shard should just about take out Landorus, depending on if he puts any bulk into it, or if it's got a little bit of prior damage. We do not have rocks on this team, as you can see. We did not bring Bliss, so I think we actually have no hazards, unfortunately, to punish switches. But he's got Regenerator going on too, so that's kind of going to negate hazards to an extent, as well as leftovers on those Regenerator walls. So we are running Choice Band instead, which should be able to 2-hit KO any of his walls. I mean, he's got two potentially physically bulky grass-type walls. We do have Rock Blast, of course, for Slowking as well, and so that's what Cloister is going to be here for. Drop him in whenever we can and get some nice big hits on stuff, and also just a priority Ice Shard to play around the Landorus with. And then Megazam just running the same old thing, mostly sub 3 attacks. Dropped Shadow Ball for Energy Ball this week. It's a little bit stronger, and it does hit Slowking super effectively. So you'll notice there is no layouts or fancy stuff like that. I will explain about that at the end of the video, but let's go ahead and get into it now. Alright, here we go. We're going to lead out with pretty much the safest thing that I think that we can lead out with, which is going to be Zapdos, as he leads out with a thing that does not actually have Magic Bounce. And he's going to immediately switch out. I'm just going to go straight for safe T-Bolt right away, see what we can do. And Shaymin wants to come in, so I'm thinking maybe that's going to be especially defensive grass type as opposed to Tangrowth, which is likely going to be physically defensive. And we do see leftovers, which is good to confirm. And we've got Air Cutter, which does some decent damage. Looks like there's probably some special D in that, and we're likely not going to be able to kill it. I don't know if it's going to have Synthesis or not, but I'm going to continue to go for Air Cutter until he shows me something that really and truly makes me want to leave. And we're going to get a nice Air Cutter off on Landorus, and that's going to definitely put it in range for an Ice Shard KO if it comes to that later in the game. But we are currently recovering him with Leech Seed, which I'm not a big fan of. So it's going to get out to Gregor and get some Ice Beams. And Sludge Wave comes, and yeah, Sheer Force hurts quite a bit. So that's going to be that. I believe I actually put close to max special defense in Gregor this week, or at least more. I know I put more special defense than defense to make sure that Porygon 2 did not get a download raise to its special attack. So anyway, here's this thing, and there was a Toxic that missed, and that ended up to be, in my opinion, fairly big. Of course, it can regenerate off the toxic damage, but it would have also made sure that that thing was not a threat to stay in and Calm Mind up, as I severely doubt it has Rest. Anyway, so he's definitely not going to stay around and let that thing get toxic when he's got a poison type that's immune to it. So just in case he wanted to, I decided to stay in and go for it anyway. And once again, as I said, if I see Scolipede, I'm going to make sure to come in and let's get some roars off and see what we can do. So he sets up Toxic Spikes, not totally a death knell, but definitely something that's going to be a problem. I do have a spinner, but that means Hitmontop at least is going to get poisoned. So I'm going to Air Cutter, see how much it does, in case he wants to, sub or immediately just go ahead and pass out. We can maybe get Mega Heracross immediately. And right there, I believe I actually went for Roar. Yes, Roar, and we got flinched. So that's oh well, it happens. And we're gonna go into this thing now. This thing is carrying Aerial Ace in case it again wants to Baton Pass out, and I figured this would be all right whether he wants to do stuff or things, whichever. And okay, here he's gonna Baton Pass out, and since I did reveal Aerial Ace, he's not gonna go into Heracross as he doesn't have a sub up. Thinking maybe the T-Spikes was there in place of the sub, maybe in place of Protect, I'm not sure. But anyway, so that's not gone terribly well, as now we're gonna come into Lando, and he's gonna set up a sub. Thankfully, that's his only sub he's gonna be able to set up, as it looks like he does not have leftovers, of course, and he looks to be below 50%. So unfortunately, though, this Earth Power hurts quite a bit. Sheer Force is rather strong, and this is also outspeeding everything, which is going to end up forcing me into Cloister. So I have no time to rest, obviously. It's just hurting way too much. But I do want to save this guy for later, and because he is going to potentially be useful, since he did not bring Umbreon or Porygon 2, Gallade, you would have been very nice against those two things. Unfortunately, you are not going to be useful too much against anything on here. You might be able to knock something off. That's going to be about it. So I'm going to keep Suicune around and just sack off Gallade instead, and now I'm kind of forced to go for Ice Shard, as otherwise we're quite possibly going to get swept by Landorus. So forced as it was, at least he got some sub damage on him, so he's going to be pretty low, and pretty much anything should be able to take him out for the rest of the game. So anyway, going to switch back into Gregor now, and in case he wants to attempt the Calm Mind or something, but I'm just going to go straight for a hit, and oh well. So there was saving the Suicune, and then I ended up sacking it off for essentially nothing. But anyway, Magic Man comes in, which doesn't take, I don't think it takes immediate poison damage anyway due to Magic Guard, Anyway, Magic Guard I don't think was actually too relevant there to have on the switch in. But anyway, so we're going to Trace Natural Cure, which is kind of nice because it means that we're going to be able to get rid of this Toxic, as he switches into Shaymin on the predicted special move, of course. It ended up to be Energy Ball, so that worked out quite well. Yeah, so I'm just going to Psychic this, and Mega Zam is modest this game, as his fastest thing, I believe, is Scolipede, so we can easily outspeed everything that's not Scarf, so I just decided to go with modest this week. And here he is going to switch into, I was mildly interested he went into Tangrowth, as Psychic is going to be a very pretty clean 2-hit KO here, it looks like. But I figure he's even gets him back above green with the Leech Seed, but I'm actually going to go ahead and switch out here, expecting him to just basically wheel around and get Slowking in while Toxic racks up, and so we Natural Cure out since we traced that off Shaymin, and ends up to work out to perfection as we get Zapdos in on Slowking, and I'm now intent to roost up and see what he wants to do. He is going to Calm Mind, and little does he know, I guess, that we put Roar on Zapdos this week instead of Suicune, so we're just about back up to full HP. He's going to go ahead and Calm Mind up, and I'm sure as soon as you see Slowking move before Zapdos, it's pretty clear what's going to be happening there. So kind of get to waste some time from that, and get Zapdos back up to full HP, or close to full HP, which is quite nice. The Shaymin is quite low. Looks like it's not going to be able to survive 2 Air Cutters, and nope, definitely. In fact, almost kills it, and if I had Heat Wave there, I probably would have killed it and saved myself getting Leech Seeded. So, alright, Air Cutter, you got to make it up to me. I guess you're making it up to me by not missing. But can you make it up to me with a crit at some point? That would be great. Anyway, at the expense of not killing there. Unfortunately, he gains back too much HP from Lefties and Seed for me to reliably go for T-Bolt, so ends up to be okay as we just get him killed off with an Air Cutter, and in comes Slowking, just gonna do mad damage to it with a T-Bolt and see what he wants to do, and just hits with Psychic, so okay, I am certainly fine with that, and now we're just going to probably T-Bolt again. We are getting sat by Leech Seed, but at least Leech Seed is not exponentially racking up, so we will be able to roost that damage off at some point. Here comes a T-Bolt, and we've seen from earlier this is not Assault Vest, so that means it's going to be taking some considerable damage from Air Cutter. And I think maybe if I can get an Air Cutter crit from right here, super effective stab, that would be great. We could probably take this thing out, and Air Cutter doesn't want to crit, of course not. So he's going to Poison Jab, and unfortunately gets the poison right away. You know, hovering over the Toxic Spikes is Zapdos, but first turn poison, and if he hadn't got it on the first turn, I probably would have just went for a hit here and taken it out, although that would have probably allowed Lando to come in. But anyway, so I'm just going to roost here and kind of hope he doesn't have EQ, and looks like he does not. He continues to go Poison Jab, and gets a crit that time. So I got poison, and then I got critted, so I'm kind of not gaining much ground here. Thankfully, this is just regular poison, not toxic poison. But Zapdos is losing Leech Seed, it's losing Poison, so that's what, losing a fourth of its life every turn, so, and then also taking, I guess, under a fourth from this Poison Jab, as I am gaining slightly from these roosts, thanks to leftovers, of course. Thankfully, he also does not have knockoff, so, anyway, yeah, he's now regenerating so much HP back with Leech Seed, and, yeah, Air Cutter, do stuff, please. So once again, though, we're going to get up to as high HP as I can, and he decides to pull a Swords Dance, as now looks like with this bout of Leech Seed recovery and lefties, it looks like he's going to be pretty much back up to full and can probably live a crit Air Cutter at this point. So that Swords Dance was relatively safe there. It's going to benefit him long term, certainly. And there's an Air Cutter. Might have been close, but anyway. So I can attempt to finish him off with a second Air Cutter here, and you know, if he switches out, I guess he kind of wasted the Swords Dance, but at the same time, I'm also now down to 9 HP, and I would, rocks are not up, so I would kind of like to conserve him if possible. Meanwhile, we're going to switch into this guy right here, and he's ideally going to be A, Death Fodder, and B, Leftovers, Stealing Fodder. As you saw there, he is Intimidate, which is there mostly because if things start going crazy against Mega Hera, I want to be able to intimidate it. Or, you know, if I'm bringing it into Scolipede earlier as well, I also got the Intimidate on there that would have been baton passed had he for some reason chosen to go into Mega Hera, which of course he did not. He went into Lando instead. Anyway, so we steal his Leftovers, and that's pretty nice. You know, I kind of hated to not run Technician since I was running Thief and some other Aerial Ace. You know, those would have certainly done a lot more. In fact, 50% more with Technician, but I really wanted the Intimidate on there for defensive purposes. So anyway, we get rid of T-Spikes, which won't be too big a help. It'll make sure that Zam can stay in and not be T-Spiked. And right there, I probably should have just went Aerial Ace instead, which probably would have killed, considering that's quad resisted. And however, well, yeah, getting this thing dead would have been fine. I was afraid for a moment there that I was gonna end up dying on this turn, and I would have rather had Hitmontop die right there so that he doesn't get a speed boost, and I can just come in, trace speed boost, and I will outspeed. Had Hitmontop died on the next turn, he would have gotten an activation of speed boost and been faster than Megazam. That would have been problematic. Thankfully, Hitmontop decided to go ahead and bite the dust right there. So in comes Coldman again. And the tank's a power whip. You know, this thing has Swords Dance, so I'm assuming it's maybe has some attack and takes it. With the attack investment I decided to put in because I didn't really feel like I was going to be able to outspeed anything notable. Unfortunately, right there is where I make a dumb and yeah, kind of lose some awareness that I usually have and don't keep my notes intact. And I think for some reason that I've killed Slowking instead of Shaymin. And if I had remembered that Slowking was the one who was still alive, I would have probably just gone for Rock Blast there and hopefully 2-hit KO'd it. Instead, we were stuck in on Icicle Spear, and at that point, I don't think Coldman's going to be able to be of too much further use, so I'm just going to get the free drop in on Falls, or at least get a Roost up and see what we can make happen with that. Still Poison, but at least he's not Leech-seeded right here, and he's going to Calm Mind up, and I can either roar him out or start firing off T-Bolts. From that range, I don't even know if it would 2-hit KO with the Calm Mind up, but I think I am going to end up deciding. Nope, I'm going to go ahead and T-Bolt this turn, see how much it does, and it does some decent damage, gets a Paralysis, and no full para on the first turn, unfortunately, even though that seems like it's the most common time to get a full para, but and then the +1 Psychic is able to take out the dose, so I think this is going to be my last guy right here. Tracer's Regenerator, which is kind of funny since it is my last guy. And we're at least able to knock out the Slowking there, despite the +1, as the Tangrowth comes in now, and I don't think even a crit Psychic is going to be able to allow us to kill off the Tangrowth. And that is going to be the game, so we're going to go down 3-0 to Joe and the Pittsburgh Steelix. And alright, so I said I'd explain the lack of layout and whatnot at the end of the video, so here we go. Last week, after the loss to the Mankeys, I was pretty sure I was going to have to win out in order to make the playoffs, and of course we have now not won out. Thankfully, I guess the silver lining to this is we kind of know as early as possible that we're not going to win out. And I guess I can go ahead and spoil the rest of the conference results this week. We got the Steelix, obviously, you just saw winning, as well as the Pelipper's winning, and the Sharpedo's losing. So there's actually a three-way tie at the top of the Johto Conference, 7-3. And then the fourth place team is myself at 4-6. So there's quite a bit of a gap there. Technically still not a lock, as I could win 4 in a row, and one of the top teams, any of the top teams really, could drop 4 in a row and not hit 8 wins. But there's also a big differential gap to consider, and it looks pretty unlikely, albeit not totally out of the realm of possibility. So anyway, what I felt like I was going to go ahead and do now is shift a little bit of the focus away from the GBA portion of the channel, as it seems like that's been about all we've been doing, and there is other stuff I would kind of like to post. So I am going to be dialing back a bit on the preparation and the video making for the GBA. You know, if say I spent maybe, I don't know, 10 to 12 hours of research and prep work for a game before, maybe I'll just do like 4 to 6 now, you know, something like that, which, you know, should still be enough. It just won't be overly obsessed, I think. But, you know, we are still, of course, going to come in and try to win every week, so definitely do not take this as a declaration that, oh, we're going to tank, because that is definitely not what we're going to do. I still want to finish with a winning record if possible, and you know, have some kind of respectable showing, you know. But yeah, also the videos, we're probably gonna suspend putting any of the niceties like the little scorecards and the intro and outro slides and whatnot until the next season. So we do kind of have mind on the future, as it looks like that playoff race is pretty locked up. Kanto Conference, though, is still wide open, so if you're interested in a hot playoff race, definitely look at the Kanto side of the GBA. But looks like the Johto Conference is just about wrapped up. If we lose next week, it is definitely wrapped up at that point, unless something miraculous happens with Tanza. But anyway, so that looks like that's going to be your playoff teams from the Johto Conference. Again, not set in stone. You know, our game next week actually is against Tom, so that's, I think, going to be our last team we play with a winning record, that we can play with a winning record even. So yeah, looking forward to that one, as he did beat me in our first outing off the back of the amazing Latias beating out Chansey. So it'll be we got a rematch going up. He's got some roster changes though, so we'll have to make some adjustments off that. But anyway, so yeah, that's what you can look forward to. I guess if you're only here for GBA content, then I guess this is kind of no good news about this for you. Except I guess I will offer my apologies. But if you are here for other stuff as well, we're going to have the 4th Gen Finale TPX tournament coming up that I've been trying to get posted for several months now, and have kept putting it off for whatever reason. And also, speaking of putting things off, I'm finally going to get around to posting an LP of a game that has been about 3 going on 4, something like that, years overdue. It's gotten kind of ridiculous, and it's about time we got this thing posted. So anyway, next week we play the Sharpedos, who, as aforestated, are 7-3, and it's going to be our last game against a team with a winning record. You know, we still have goals of this season of finishing with a winning record, at least being even, maybe getting back into positive differential even. So, you know, that's what we're going to focus on. I don't expect us to put up big differentials, so that's another reason I'm kind of going to write a playoff push out, although it's not totally out of the question. But we'll see. Just looking to, you know, get used. Another benefit to this, I guess, is now I'm going to be a little bit more inclined to run some experimental sets that I would like to test out, but I don't really have the confidence to bring them in, you know, pressure situations where we really need to win. Since that pressure is a little bit alleviated, it'll allow us to test out some stuff and get some more experience running some different stuff that I kind of want to run, but I'm not totally comfortable with it. Without as much pressure on there, and that'll help for future seasons, I hope. But yeah, we are certainly going ahead and sizing up some things that we might want to pick up. Actually, I've kind of been doing that for quite a while. And I don't know when the trade deadline is. It may have already passed, but I don't think we would be making any, unless someone really wants Magneton, any further trades anyway. So anyway, this is kind of the format you can expect for the remainder of this season. It was cutting out all the trims. Those will be back for the next season, so which starting, I'm not sure when that is, but anyway, we still got 4 games this season, so let's go out and try to win those best we can. Bring whatever best thing we think is going to be for the matchup, and I'll see you guys next week for a rematch with San Jose. Later days.